We are constantly exposed to diverse kinds of pathogens like viruses, bacteria, and other microorganisms or agents that can restrict our body's normal functioning or cause many types of diseases. Thankfully, we have a network of defenses that enabled and are continually allowing us to survive. Let's look at an overview of our body's immune responses. But before this, please make sure to subscribe for other health and biology videos. I've also uploaded several music videos for studying and relaxation. A person's immune system relies on a complex defense mechanisms that operate on different levels. These are the first, second, and third lines of defense. The first level or line of defense is considered nonspecific and general in its actions since it does not involve recognition of the pathogens. These include the anatomical barriers in our body's surface like our skin and mucous membrane. When intact, these serve as mechanical barriers against the entry of potential or even non-potential pathogens. They may also neutralize pathogens before they can even cause infections. Cells that make up the topmost layer of our skin, known as the stratum corneum, are compacted together and are infused with an insoluble protein called keratin, which gives it a waterproof property. Shedding of cells at this layer, which regularly occurs, also helps remove microbes. Physical factors and secretions associated with the skin and mucous membrane enhance their protective functions. For instance, nasal hairs and cilia, or brush-like structures that line the trachea, filter inhaled air to remove or reduce foreign matters that may cause infections. Our saliva, tears, sweat, and other body fluids contain an enzyme called lysozyme that destroys bacteria and other microorganisms. Microbes that enter the stomach can also be inactivated by the gastric juice's high acidity. Mucus produced by membranes lining the digestive and respiratory passageways are slightly viscous or thick and can trap potential invaders. Blinking, sneezing, coughing, urination, defecation, and other activities are also involved in the body's first line of defense. Aside from these, the genetic makeup of an individual may ensure protection from some pathogens. An example is seen in persons carrying genes for sickle cell anemia and are resistant to infection by malaria. Despite their protective nature, the first line of defense can still be breached by pathogens. In this case, the second line of defense sets in. This now involves the activity of defensive cells and other responses, such as inflammation and fever, which are also nonspecific in nature. Examples of defensive cells that come into play after pathogens surpass the first line of defense are the white blood cells or leukocytes. These are known to ingest microorganisms and other toxic substances in a process known as phagocytosis. Different types of white blood cells have specific functions, which are discussed in another video. You may check this in the link below. Inflammation is a series of events that occur in response to an injury or entry of some foreign objects in the body. It is usually characterized by four Latin terms: rubor, calor, tumor, and dolor. Rubor or redness and calor or warmth are caused by dilation of blood vessels and increased blood flow to the injured site. These events summon or mobilize defensive substances and beneficial cells and fluids. Tumor or swelling occurs due to an increased fluid escaping into the tissues, which dilutes toxic substances. This accumulation of fluid in an area that causes local swelling is called edema. Dolor or pain is caused by damages to or stimulation of nerve endings. Aside from its protective functions, inflammation also helps in the repair or replacement of damaged tissues. Inflammation can either be acute or chronic. Acute inflammation usually lasts for a few minutes to days, and the signs and symptoms develop rapidly, as in wounds and sore throat. Chronic inflammation, on the other hand, can last from several weeks to years and the signs and symptoms develop slowly. Examples of which are peptic ulcer and rheumatoid arthritis. Fever or the increase in body temperature up to a certain point helps in the destruction of pathogens or in reducing their viability. It may also inhibit multiplication of temperature-sensitive microorganisms, speed up the body's reactions against pathogens, and promote quicker tissue repair. If abnormally high, though, fever can affect the body's normal functioning. Both the first and second lines of defense are innate or present at birth. In contrast, the third line of defense is adaptive or acquired through exposures. For instance, we've probably heard that after contracting and recovering from measles, a person would almost always be immune to that disease throughout his life. This principle is also considered in the development of vaccines. Also, unlike the previous two mechanisms, the third line of defense is highly specific and responses are directed towards the pathogens and foreign matters. This requires the immune system's ability to distinguish destructive from non-destructive components. The third line of defense takes place when the innate defenses fail to stop the pathogens. Hence, it may take place at a later period. The very first time that the body gets infected with a particular pathogen, the adaptive immune system's primary response towards the causative agents involves a lag or latent period between 4 to 14 days. Responses become more rapid during the next and subsequent exposures to the same pathogens as the system already developed a memory on the destructive pathogens. A more detailed discussion of the adaptive immune system can be watched in another video, which you can also find in the link below.